In 2025, many people believe the world is on the brink of unprecedented events, ones that align with the ancient prophecies about the rise of the Antichrist and the turmoil that will follow. As the signs intensify, there is an undercurrent of fear and expectation that this will be the year where forces, both seen and unseen, gather to shape the future of humanity. The Antichrist, a figure prophesied to deceive nations and lead the world astray, is said to be rising through political and religious spheres. His power, shrouded in deception, will emerge through world leaders who may not immediately appear as his followers but will pave the way for his ascension. These leaders, influenced by dark forces, will guide nations into a state of division and unrest, where the Antichrist will ultimately claim dominion over the hearts and minds of the masses. The Israel dispute, long a source of global tension, will continue to intensify as nations become more openly hostile, leading to greater conflict and division. Jerusalem, a city that carries deep significance for millions around the world, will be at the center of this chaos, with many nations rallying to either protect or oppose Israel's right to exist. The geopolitical situation in the Middle East is expected to escalate, with global powers taking sides, making the region a hotbed of conflict and struggle. As these tensions rise, the prophecies concerning the final battle between good and evil appear to be moving toward their inevitable conclusion, with Israel caught in the midst of it all, playing a pivotal role in the clash between divine and demonic forces. The United States, long seen as a beacon of hope and freedom, will also find itself caught up in a storm of internal and external struggles. The government, once founded on principles of faith and righteousness, will become more susceptible to the influence of satanic agents. These agents, operating in the shadows, will manipulate leaders and institutions, further distorting the nation's moral compass. The once clear distinction between good and evil will blur, and many will fall into disbelief, rejecting the truth in favor of lies and half-truths. The United States, once the bastion of faith, will see a decline in spiritual conviction, allowing the rise of dark ideologies that will only serve to further the cause of the Antichrist. The influence of satanic forces will be felt not just in politics, but in every aspect of society. More and more people will turn away from God, choosing instead to embrace the false promises of secularism and materialism. As the world becomes more connected, the spread of satanic ideologies will grow, with occult practices gaining ground, especially among the youth. The Satanic Church, which once operated in the shadows, will come out into the open, as more and more people, disillusioned with traditional religions, turn to it for answers. This organization, whose purpose is to oppose all that is holy and good, will find itself growing in influence as it attracts those who are lost and searching for meaning in a world that seems to have lost its way. America's past leaders, many of whom were once thought to be champions of righteousness, will be remembered not for their devotion to truth but for their role in paving the way for the coming of the Antichrist. Their policies, alliances, and actions will have unknowingly set in motion the rise of this dark figure. They will be seen as unwitting or deliberate facilitators of the Antichrist's plan, aiding in the establishment of a satanic network that stretches across the globe. These leaders will have, whether through ignorance or intent, laid the groundwork for a world that would be ripe for deception, where the boundaries between good and evil are no longer clear, and the masses are blind to the dangers lurking just beneath the surface. As the year unfolds, the spiritual and moral decay of the world will continue at an alarming rate. The Antichrist's influence will grow stronger, drawing people into a web of lies that promises peace but delivers only destruction. The Satanic Church, which once operated in the shadows, will come out into the open, as more and more people, disillusioned with traditional religions, turn to it for answers. This organization, whose purpose is to oppose all that is holy and good, will find itself growing in influence as it attracts those who are lost and searching for meaning in a world that seems to have lost its way. America's past leaders, many of whom were once thought to be champions of righteousness, will be remembered not for their devotion to truth but for their role in paving the way for the coming of the Antichrist. Their policies, alliances, and actions will have unknowingly set in motion the rise of this dark figure. They will be seen as unwitting or deliberate facilitators of the Antichrist's plan, aiding in the establishment of a satanic network that stretches across the globe. These leaders will have, whether through ignorance or intent, laid the groundwork for a world that would be ripe for deception, where the boundaries between good and evil are no longer clear, and the masses are blind to the dangers lurking just beneath the surface. As the year unfolds, the spiritual and moral decay of the world will continue at an alarming rate. The Antichrist's influence will grow stronger, drawing people into a web of lies that promises peace but delivers only destruction. The world, once a place where faith could be found, will become a place where the truth is hidden, and only those willing to seek the light will be able to discern the reality of what is happening. The forces of evil will operate through governments, corporations, and religious institutions, slowly but surely dismantling the foundations of what was once considered sacred. The battle for the soul of humanity will be fought on every front, and the outcome will depend on the ability of believers to stand firm in their faith, even as the world around them spirals further into darkness. The year 2025 will be a turning point in history, a year where the prophetic signs spoken of in ancient texts will begin to come to fruition. The rise of the Antichrist, the intensification of the Israel dispute, and the growing influence of satanic agents across the globe will be the harbingers of a new age, an age where the forces of evil seem to have the upper hand, but where the faithful continue to hold on to hope, knowing that their ultimate victory lies in the hands of a power far greater than the darkness that threatens to engulf the world. As the world teeters on the edge of chaos, the final chapter of humanity's story is yet to be written, but it will be a chapter where the forces of light must fight for their place in a world that seems to be slipping further away from truth and righteousness. As the year progresses, the situation only becomes more dire. The rise of the Antichrist manifests not only through charismatic leaders who sway the masses with promises of peace, prosperity, and unity, but also through the infiltration of the world's spiritual and religious systems. Institutions that were once bastions of faith begin to bend under pressure, becoming corrupted by dark forces. Churches that once preached the gospel of Christ now find themselves compromised, either silent in the face of rising evil or actively participating in the agenda that seeks to usher in the reign of the Antichrist. Faithful believers who continue to cling to truth will find themselves increasingly isolated, marginalized, and even persecuted by those who embrace the new order, a world led by false doctrines and demonic influences. The influence of the satanic church grows exponentially, as those who once rejected its principles now openly embrace them. No longer a clandestine organization, the Church of Satan expands its reach, welcoming people from all walks of life who are disillusioned with traditional religious teachings. In many places, it begins to establish its influence in the public sphere, spreading its doctrine of rebellion against God, encouraging self-worship, and denouncing all that is pure and holy. Its presence becomes undeniable, with its symbols and practices increasingly appearing in mainstream culture. Those who align with this agenda will find power, wealth, and status, while those who resist will be branded as outcasts, subjected to growing societal pressure to conform to the New World Order. In America, the government continues its downward spiral, with many elected officials either turning a blind eye to the growing influence of the Antichrist or actively supporting policies that pave the way for his rise. Behind the scenes, shadowy figures pull the strings, manipulating the political system and molding public opinion to favor the establishment of a global empire. The American public, once known for its faith and devotion to moral principles, becomes increasingly divided, as factions form, each believing they are fighting for the greater good. Meanwhile, the true battle for the soul of the nation is obscured, and those who stand against the forces of darkness are silenced, either through political persecution or through the gradual erosion of freedoms once held dear. The global situation continues to deteriorate as nations fall further into conflict, with alliances shifting and loyalties being tested. The world becomes a volatile and unpredictable place, as leaders seek to secure their own power while the forces of evil move ever closer to achieving their ultimate goal, global domination under the rule of the Antichrist. The media, once a tool for informing the public, is now largely controlled by those with sinister intentions. Truth is manipulated, and lies are propagated, making it nearly impossible for the average person to discern reality from deception. As the Antichrist prepares to reveal himself in full, the world grows darker, and those who remain faithful to God face greater trials. The temptation to abandon their beliefs will be immense, as the Antichrist promises of worldly success and security seem irresistible to many. But those who hold fast to the truth of the gospel will find strength in their faith, knowing that the ultimate victory belongs to God. In the midst of this growing darkness, there will still be a remnant of believers who refuse to compromise, standing firm in their commitment to Christ, no matter the cost. The rise of the Antichrist will not come without resistance, however. There will be those who, despite the odds, continue to fight for the truth, speaking out against the lies and exposing the evil behind the scenes. But as they do, they will face increasing opposition from all sides, and their voices will be drowned out by the overwhelming tide of deception. The temptation to surrender will be great, but those who remain steadfast in their faith will serve as a beacon of light in a world gone dark. The year 2025 marks a pivotal moment in the history of the world, a year when the forces of evil seem to triumph and when the prophetic signs of the end times unfold with terrifying clarity. Yet, even in the midst of this darkness, there will be those who, despite all odds, stand firm in their faith, knowing that their redemption is drawing near. The rise of the Antichrist, the corruption of governments and churches, the spread of satanic influence, all these are signs of the final battle between good and evil. And while the world may seem lost, the ultimate victory belongs to God, whose light will one day banish the darkness once and for all. As the year continues, the struggles between light and darkness intensify. The Antichrist's influence seeps into all facets of life, with even more nations submitting to his rule, knowingly or unknowingly. Leaders around the world, either corrupted by power or deceived by his promises, stand in alignment with his global agenda, while chaos and confusion grip the hearts of people everywhere. The faithful remain vigilant, but the cost of standing for truth becomes higher, and persecution mounts. The fight for the soul of humanity reaches its peak as the forces of evil grow stronger and more brazen. In this time of widespread deception and unrest, many will face a choice: to follow the Antichrist's path to power and worldly gain, or to stand firm in their faith, despite the growing dangers and temptations. The battle rages on, and though it may seem that darkness is winning, the light of truth never fades. For the faithful, their trust in God's ultimate plan will be their guiding force, and they will endure, knowing that the end is not yet written. The final battle will come, and with it, the eventual triumph of righteousness over evil. In the end, when the dust settles and the true nature of the world is revealed, those who held fast to their beliefs will see the fulfillment of the prophecies that warned of these times. The reign of the Antichrist will be short-lived, for God's kingdom will be established, and all evil will be cast down. As the world stands on the precipice of these prophetic events, it is a time to reflect, to strengthen one's faith, and to stay vigilant. If you found this message meaningful, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for more insights and updates. Stay alert, stay strong, and may you be guided by truth in these uncertain times.